I have a problem. My battery is low, and my up. I don't know what is happening. So I want to find a cable to charge my battery, my phone battery. But it's fine. We scheduled to start at 1:15, ne?
At 1:15 in 3 minutes time, yes, Chair.
In 3 minutes time, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right. According to Apple Watch, it's 12:14. So in 1 minute time, in a minute's time.
Okay. Yes, Chair.
That's the most accurate is the Apple Watch, Chairperson. I'm saying, Chairperson, the Apple Watch. You are saying that's the most accurate of all.
It's the most accurate, internationally recognized.
You can imagine, Chair.
That's not true.
So anyone who's not in possession of Apple, they are behind time. I would recommend that you upgrade to Apple.
But yours
They recognize.
always run out of battery.
They do what?
Always run.
Oh yeah, saying that. You know, you just reminded me. I have a what you call this? I have a backup charger. I just hope it's in my handbag. Because if my phone can go off, it will be disastrous. I have a backup charger. Yes, I do. I do. No, comrades, it's all systems go. Members, it's all systems go. I'm in. I have no fear now. Yes, I'm part of the meeting. It's 12:15 on the dot. Can we start the meeting?
Yes.
It's 12:15 on the dot. Can we start the meeting? I want to check if the co-chair is on board. Mema Hlangu?
No, she told me that she will be on a flight. I don't know where to. So by the time the meeting starts, she may join later.
She will join. Okay, it's fine. All right. Members, you are all welcome. I would not go through the protocols of visual meetings. I think we've had an exposure. We are all experienced. We know that we must keep our mics muted and our cameras muted. I see someone from communication is trying to call me. Unfortunately, I can't turn on my camera. Shirley, is it about that? Is it about my camera, sister? Shirley, are you in this meeting? I can see you're trying to call me. I'm using my phone. I can't take any calls.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do you want my face?
Yes, ma'am. We really do need your face because we are live on TV with this committee.
Okay, then listen, help me quickly. Sorry, members, for this. My phone says allow Zoom to access your camera from device, menu settings, privacy camera. What do I do? Where do I do? What do I do?
You allow. You just click on allow, ma'am.
It's when
Yes,
I say
ma'am.
okay, it doesn't. Let me quickly try to settings. I don't know where to go. I'm on settings now.
Okay. It does the same these days. Zoom does the same. It asks you if ever you want to do that. You can start the meeting, ma'am. We will assist during the course of the meeting.
Okay.
So that we don't delay you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think let's not delay the meeting with my face. Don't you have a beautiful picture of me that you can put on screen? At least people at home should see me.
We will try.
I would like to be on
We
TV
will.
only on a voice. People must see my pretty face. It's
We
important.
will try that, but because we've got media, they would love to get the live coverage of what is happening.
Okay.
And it is.
All right. I want to apologize for that. As we move on, I will try to get my face on the screen, but I think this should not hold the meeting. It's a Friday afternoon. People are scheduled to travel to different places. I want to appreciate and thank each and every one of you who made time to attend this meeting. It is going to be a short meeting depending on the engagements. The agenda is on the screen. I want to also welcome the acting secretary to Parliament, Mayor Baby Jawa. She's always present with us. I'm not sure if there are any attendees from the executive. No, none. I also see Minister Delil. You are welcome, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning.
Yes, thank you very much for honoring this invitation as well. The agenda is on the screen. Before we can get into the agenda, Cindy, are there any other formal apologies that you received from your side?
Yes, Chairperson, we received an apologies from members Lakude, Mazone, and Singh, and also 2 formal apologies from the Deputy Minister of Public Works.
Is that Dr.
And from the DG, Mr. Imtiaz Fazal. Those are the apologies, Chair.
Yeah, T.
Like tea.
Yes.
Silent tea or rooibos.
5 roses. Okay, thank you, Cindy. Those are the apologies, and Mahlangu will join us as soon as she lands. She's traveling from Cape Town to home. Okay, members, you're all welcome. We can start. We have only no. Put the agenda back. Cindy?
Yes, Chair.
Put the agenda back. Yeah. We've invited the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. We want them to give us a briefing on the recent fire in the old assembly and on the recent fire that affected Parliament. And what is it that they're going to do to avoid further fires in the precincts of Parliament, and also, if possible, that they can also tell us what was the cause of the fire, so that can be cleared with the public. Then we'll allow for discussions, and then immediately after that, we'll then have a briefing on Parliament's performance in the fourth quarter. Then we'll have discussions. So that is the agenda for the day. As indicated earlier on, this might be a very long meeting depending on the engagements, but we are scheduled for 12:15 till 1:30. I think we should start. Let me invite the minister to then take us through the presentation, and she will then decide who's going to do the presentation. Then after, we'll open for questions. Over to you, Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson, and good morning to the Honorable members too. Or is it afternoon already? My sincere apologies. Yes, we are ready to brief Parliament on the outcome of the investigations into the fire that happened on the 16th of March, and also inform Parliament about the future plans of restoration. Honorable Chairperson, I'm joined today by officials from the department, Mr. Clive Mchisa, who is the Deputy Director General for Corporate Services, and also Mr. Mzwandile Sazona, who is the Chief Director of Prestige, and he will lead us on the presentation. And then thereafter, we look forward to take any questions or suggestions or advice from the committee members. I thank you, Chairperson. Through you, if I can ask Mr. Mzwandile Sazona to do the presentation. Thank you.
That's okay.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good afternoon, Co-Chairperson, and to the members of the committee, and the colleagues from Parliament and colleagues from Public Works. Co-Chairperson, I first have to mention that the presentation that we'll be doing is a joint presentation between ourselves and Parliament. Since the day of the incident, we have been working together with Parliament to through the investigation process and into the process of trying to find a solution as to what we are going to do in terms of the preservation of the building and the restoration process. The fire chair, if you can go to split the slide. The fire incident started on the 16th of March in the afternoon. But luckily, the Cape Town Fire Department was able to be on site on time and no injuries because it was the time in the afternoon and Parliament was in recess. The cause of the fire started as an electrical fault in room 415 in the old assembly. And the fire was evacuated and the building was closed. And we started with the investigation together with the fire department, the police, Parliament security, and together with Parliament officials to put the pieces together. And since then, Chair, I must mention, every Friday we're meeting as a joint team. We established a joint team that includes all the stakeholders that was meeting on a Friday to assess progress on investigation and what can be done to restore the building. Part of the issues that we discussed in that process, Chair, was the decanting and to ensure that, firstly, the building was closed off by the police. Initially, it was declared as a crime scene, and therefore no one was having access into the building, except those that needed to be there. And the police gave us a preliminary report wherein they provided access to us and other officials into the building. But through the meetings that we have, the joint committees that we have, it was found that it's not going to be pretended or intended for us to be able to get into the building while the members of Parliament who occupy those offices were still on recess. The decanting chair was then planned to move the offices that are on the 6th floor into, that way on the building in the old assembly into the 6th floor in the 90 plan. And Parliament was leading that process in consultation with the occupiers of those offices. That decanting process has taken place until we were then given access as Public Works on the 14th, which is on Monday, on Monday on the 10th until today, for us then to do a technical assessment as to the extent of the damage. During this period, Chair, that we haven't had this process, together with Parliament, we have done a visual assessment. And what came out on the visual assessment was that the external facade of the building, there were no visible damage on the building structure externally. What could be seen as the damage was on the roof, which was the tile, the roof tile was damaged, and we had to close it temporarily and install a waterproofing so that there cannot be water ingress into the building. The permanent roof repair would start through the emergency that will be motivating. And once we have finalized what needs to be done in the entire building. In the room 415, where the incident originally started, there's been an extensive damage. The audio visuals have been damaged, the ceiling has been damaged, and the equipments and the furniture. So there is an extensive damage on that building. That is actually the only building in terms of our assessment, the visual assessment, which have the extensive damage. Other offices, we couldn't see any damage inside the offices because the offices were closed, but we could see the water cascading from the higher floors into the lower floors when the fire extinguishers were trying to extinguish the flames. Following slide. Chair, the first thing we did was to look at the electrical installation, because our concern was the electrical installation can create other problems for other buildings that are close by that are feeding into the same electrical reticulation. We had to close the main feed so that the wing should be shut down, and there is no electricity for the safety. There is no electricity now that moves into that area and into the building. And the floor, the distribution board of the floor has also been shut down, and there is no power in the entire building. In 415 building, where it seems the fire had started, we have witnessed or seen some kind of extensive damage, and we have all the electrical equipment in that building has been, in that area, in that room particularly, has been damaged. As I said, Chair, the offices, we didn't have access into the offices. We'll only be able to have that access which we had during the course of the week, and the team, the technical team of the department, together with the officials from Parliament, have completed their assessment today. The report, the draft report, will probably be available next week during the course of the week. The HVAC system, there's been an extensive damage on the HVAC system and other equipments that feeds into room 415. Similarly, Chair, also on the ground floor, because of the centralized system, we also couldn't have access into the plant room and the individual offices. But we assume that due to the nature of and the extent of the fire and smoke, there needs to be some kind of repair of the system and sanitization of the entire system during the maintenance process. There are 2 lifts that feed to the building, Chair. We have grounded those lifts, and they are in the process of being repaired by Schindler. The water that was cascading from the higher floors into the pit have been pumped out of the pit. So the process now is Schindler to get the repairs to maintain those 2 lifts, which are still grounded due to the alarm, due to the fire that came out. So, can I move? The offices up to the 3rd floor from the ground office, there is no visible damage. We'll look at the report as from next week from the technical team. But what we have seen has been extensive. The damage has extensively been created by water, because during the extinguishing of the fire, the fire brigade there was an extensive water that was flooding all the floors from the 3rd floor up to the ground floor. On the office furnitures, we couldn't have access into the offices, so we didn't know what is the extent of the damage. But now our technical team has gone in. Next week, we should be able to have that report giving us the extent of the damage in those offices. So to summarize, the extent of the damage and the scope of work will relate to the roof, the replacement of the portion of the tile and the trestles, the reinstallation of the void sprinkler system, the reinstallation of the fire detection and the warning system, to upgrade the fire detection and the ramrod system, the repair of the ceilings on the 3rd floor, possible light repairs to general offices, the lifts that is being assessed, and the repairing that is in the process with Schindler, the timber flooring in offices, we suspect that it needs to be changed, and including the carpeting, painting of those offices and cleaning. Currently, Court Chair, the estimate for the repairs is 10.5 million. These are estimates based on the visuals assessment, Chair, and we need to emphasize that. Next week, we should be able to have now that our technical team, professional and technical team have gone in, we should be able to have the estimate, professionally estimated fees, cost for the project. This is the summary of the visual assessment estimate cost, Chair, which comes to top 10.5 in my estimation. If we look at the timelines, Chair, of what has happened and what it's going to be done, which some of the events now that I hear have been overtaken by time. The occupation of the rooms of the offices still remains suspended. The police have opened a docket on the 17th of March. We received now today, Chair, a final report from the police that says there's been no suspicion of any foul play. The case has been closed, that has been opened. The assessment has been completed today. It started on the 10th, on Monday, after the decanting of the people that were staying in those offices. The assessment will be dealing with the structural integrity of the building and all issues that relate to the roof. All of that will be done. And the building has been, actually by the structural engineer, they've also confirmed that there's not much structural damage in the building and the building is still fit to be occupied. Once we received, Chair, the decantings happened into the 6th floor, but after we have received now the final report from our technical and professional team next week, we will start with the process of developing the scope of work, and we'll then take a decision together with Parliament, the process that will take for the restoration of the building and the repair of the building. The last one. We therefore, Chair, Co-Chair, request for the committee, Joint Standing Committee, to accept and support the report. Thank you very much, Co-Chair.
Minister, would you like to make a comment?
And not at this stage, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
All right. Parliament is a national key point, and I'm sure members of the media were never allowed to access the area during this event. So I would want you to share the pictures of the building. If you do have, I'm sure the police could have done that. I'm sure even yourselves as Public Works could have done that. I would want you to share the pictures with the public so that they can see exactly. Even myself, I'm not yet sure which part of the offices you are referring to. Just for us to get an idea and to see really what happened there. I have two issues here with me. I have an issue. One is that you said the fire occurred as a result of an electrical fault. I'm not sure whether that is a final report from the formal investigations, or it was assumed that it came as a result of an electrical fault. And subsequent to that, the police sealed the area off and it was declared a crime scene. At what point do the police declare a place as a crime scene if an electrical fault, to me, an ordinary person would think and conclude that if the fire was as a result of an electrical fault, that will then be declared as an accident. So I want that to be cleared as well. If this is going to cost 10.5 million, at whose cost? Is it Parliament or is it Public Works? Do you have insurance? Is this national key point insured? Who's going to incur this cost? Do you have that in your budget? I know that sometimes you do budget for disasters. Can you also explain to us where are you going to get the money from? And also the fire detections. Why the fire detections were not able to protect the fire? And yes, and how often do you service the fire detection? And also the electrical certificate, if the fire was as a result of the electrical fault, will there be any recourse to people who are responsible for our electricity in Parliament? I'm not sure who does that. If it's an outsourced program, then it will be helpful that the company involved with the electricity of Parliament should be held accountable on that. The damage, yes, you did try to explain the severance of the damage. If you're saying the roof, is that roof going to be able, are you going to be able to fix only that side? Or is it going to affect the entire block? Yeah, the restoration program, I would have been satisfied if you were to say fire broke out as a result of electricity fault. We have determined that we need to improve certain points or our electricity connections. These are the things that we think as public works we need to improve on. And also we need to strengthen the fire detection system in Parliament. But you did not go to that extent. We want that assurance so that we don't experience this kind of an unfortunate incident again in Parliament. I will pause there and invite members for questions and comments. Members, please raise your hands on the portal. Let me just see. Participants. I have member Jacques. Okay, Cindy, can you do that for us?
Yes, Chair. I've got member Julius and Mr. Molitsane.
Member Julius, you'll be the first one.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Thank you for the report also. Good afternoon, Minister. Just one issue that will join with one of your issues that you mentioned, Co-Chair. I just need a report, some kind of a report in terms of our fire detection and the sprinkler systems. Was it in good order before the fire broke out? And the whole precinct, all buildings on the precinct of Parliament, is it in good order? If it's in good order, can we have a report on that or any certificate that it's in good order? Because I know Parliament gets serviced very frequently and we pay a lot of money to these contractors. And somewhere the blame there's somewhere something went wrong if this was not in order. So I would need to know from Public Works, what did you do in terms of our systems not working, our sprinkler system, our detection system? Did you do anything? Will someone be held liable for that? Who are the contractors that's supposed to do this work? When last did they service all buildings in terms of fire detections and sprinklers on the Parliament precinct? And basically, is everything in order in all other buildings? Because our officers can also be in danger if the sprinkler systems. Do you have a report or sprinkler? I think, Co-Chairperson, it's not just to ask whether it's for that. The calls keep coming in. We need proof. You know, a certificate or proof, and that will give us a date and everything. So I need to know from Public Works, did you access all these documents and how far are you with that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Julius. Member Mautwe.
Chair,
Is it Moletsane?
Yes, Chairperson.
Okay, Member Moletsane.
Thank you, Co-chairperson, good afternoon, honorable members, the minister and everyone. Co-chair, according to the presentation here of the report on page 3, it indicates that this is the preliminary report, and it says that the final report was supposed to be available as on the 14th of May. I just want to check whether is the final report ready and available. If not, when is the final report going to be available for us? Because presently we are entertaining the preliminary report. Thank you, Co-Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson, there's also Mr. Khadebe, Mr. Khai, and Memasho.
Okay, we'll take it this way. We'll say Kaiso, Khai, Mahlo, and Khadebe. Member Julius and Member Moletsani, please lower your hands. Unless if you have further questions to ask, please lower your hands. Members, once you have spoken, please lower your hand. Can we start with Member Kaiso?
Yes,
Followed by Khai and Matlo, then Khadebe will be last.
Thank you very much, Co-Chair. And to want to welcome the presentation on the report about the Parliament's building. So it's quite an important report, this one, to know as a committee. Firstly, Co-Chair, is that I think by the mere fact that there is a report that it is still coming, it does say to us that we're waiting more because there's some other technical aspect of the report that the presenter said they are expecting, especially around the issue of how fire started. It's something that is very technical. I also want to agree with the member that perhaps it's also important to know a particular reports with regard to, you know, the status of the instrument or equipment that are installed there, which need a regular, you know, inspection, whether such have been carried, when was the last, etc. I think that I also agree that we needed to also get, you know, especially at the time of fire, what was the status, etc. I want to assume maybe that technical report will also reflect, but I'm just saying it now in advance that it is also important to know about that. And whether do we have really all the systems or electrical systems and everything that is mounted there, are there regular reports which could be furnished to this committee as and when we want them to know at least on a yearly basis or twice a year to know the status. I think it's very important so that we don't get surprised as time goes by that we're now facing this situation where maintenance was not really properly done to an extent that we could not detect a danger that is approaching in as far as, you know, the infrastructure or the building is concerned. So it's very, very much important that we know. But now I'm just taken aback by the fact that now this is a preliminary report. We might miss some of the points that we needed to get. So let me pause there, Chair, with this few questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Khai.
Thank you very much, Honorable Co-Chair. Good afternoon to honorable members, to the Minister, Acting Secretary, and the officials of Parliament, as well as officials from the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. Chair, I concur with the speakers before me on issues that they have raised. Perhaps, Chair, I think you need to invite the department again so that when we have a discussion, we have a discussion on a full report, because there's work that is still being conducted, further investigation that is still being conducted. And even the total amount so far is an estimate of 10.5 million. So we need a conclusive report on all these areas that have been raised by members. I think also, Chair, as part of our quarterly reports, perhaps under the section on HR, we need to be informed on regular basis on the issue of health and safety of Parliament members and the staff. Should be a regular item, but also check whether we do have a health and safety committee in Parliament, so that from time to time we get reports and those issues, so that we're not taken by surprise when things like this happen. Because now we only now aware of this particular room. I think it's 454, if I'm not mistaken. We don't know the status of the electrical faults in other offices or in Parliament. The building, the whole building in Parliament. We don't know the status of its safety. So that's why I'm suggesting that from time to time, we need to get regular reports on the safety and health situation of the staff and members and the building itself. I just want to check, because you also touched on the issue of insurance. I just want to take it further and check that those equipments that have been damaged, the audio visual equipment, the computers, the printers, and all other equipments, are those equipments insured? Or does this 10.5 also include the equipment or just the structure of the building that has been damaged, like the roof, the floors, and all that stuff? That does it exclude the equipments that have been damaged? But to check on the part of Parliament whether the equipment have been insured, such as computers and all that stuff. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Member Matlo.
Co-Chair, let me say good morning, good afternoon to you, Chair, and the Minister, including the Acting Secretary of Parliament and all officials and my co-workers. My input on this matter will be that I would like also to support the view of other members when they said that we must get the report, in which will then give us the information about the damage, the full information about the damage. But also in that report, I think, as I said, I will be concurring with other members. It will then inform us about the detection system and also the sprinkler system, and also including this issue of insurance, because if we are talking about 10 million, on the other side, we don't know what is the insurance saying about the equipments that were in that office. And then I think the report can be able to clarify us on this matter, but also to check on the activities of the contractors that are given in that report. it will then give us the sense of what is happening with the contractor that is given the maintenance plan or the maintenance contract to maintain, to deal with the issue of maintenance in Parliament. I think because this Parliament is a key point, is one of the most important areas that need to be taken into consideration, and that it also involves a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration by the contractor. So I think, Chair, I agree that let's get the report, and they must tell us when will this report be given to the portfolio committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Dr. Hadebe. Member Hadebe, your connection is bad. We could hardly hear a thing. Member Hadebe, am I the only one? Cindy, can you hear Member Hadebe?
His line is very, very bad on my side also, Chair.
His line is bad.
And it seems like he can't hear us.
I'm in contact with Mr. Hadebe via WhatsApp. Shall I mute him for now?
Can you call him?
Okay, will do.
Can you call him, tell him to get a better spot?
Okay, will do.
Yeah, he experienced the same thing yesterday.
As the
in our
members
meeting.
of the public and the staff of Parliament.
Mr. Hadebe? Hello?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah,
Yes.
your line is very bad. We could hardly hear a
let me
thing.
pass him. No.
Yeah, you know what you can do? You can write.
Yes,
you can write.
Honorable Chairperson.
Yes. Yes, I can hear you.
All right.
Submit your questions in writing. Dr. Hadebe, can you hear me? Do them in writing. You can write on the chat. Okay, it's fine. He will do that. I see there's a hand. Okay, it's off Mr. Hadebe. It's fine. He will lower his hand. If you can hear me, Dr. Hadebe, lower your hand and then deposit your questions on the chat like you did yesterday. All right, those were the comments and questions. Can we be clarified whether this is a final report or a preliminary report? And if this is a preliminary report, when are we going to get the final report? Because us engaging on an incomplete report, it serves no purpose because even cost estimates are not accurate. So can that happen? But meanwhile, please, can we get photos of the present so that members of the public and members of the media can see the damages and also get a clear understanding of which rooms are we referring to? Can we do that?
Chairperson, may I come in while they sort out the photos? Honorable Chairperson, can I respond in the meantime while you wait for the photos?
Yes, you may respond. You may respond, Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Chairperson and members, we have reported in our presentation that the actual fire happened on the 16th of March. The police declared it a crime scene and therefore we were not allowed access. We were only allowed access on the 11th of May, which is 3 days ago. The report will be finalized today, the 14th. The team have been working with Parliament around the clock to get the report finalized by today. And so we are prepared, Chairperson, to submit the report to the members as soon as Chairperson is able to call us again. The second one, Chairperson, we can also in the next meeting present to the honorable members a complete maintenance plan that we have for Parliament. That can also be presented. We can also present to the honorable members a breakdown of the estimated 10 million rand. Even myself, I've asked for that breakdown, but now that the contractors have been allowed to access to the scene, it might change. So it is estimate cost that the department has put together, but we can also in the final report, we'll be able to give a more accurate estimate to the members about the restoration. One honorable member has asked about insurance. No, government buildings are not insured. It is a decision that I think that we need to review. Government is only covered through Sasria, the Sasria fund against riots and willful damages that Sasria has covered. But we don't have insurance on any government building. And I have raised this issue with the Minister of Finance that I do think it's time that we review a decision that was taken years ago, because definitely there is a need to insure government buildings, but also especially key national points, essential infrastructure points that we need to protect. And so that part and that discussion is still work in progress. So the short answer is no, we don't have insurance, except like I say, the Sasria fund. But we're finalizing the report today, and it's up to Honorable Chairperson to summons us again to bring all the reports that the honorable members have requested. We'll be able to bring it in the next meeting. Thank you very much, Chairperson. I hope that the department has got the photos ready now to flight them. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Then it means we are discussing an incomplete report.
Yes.
Then give us the pictures so that we can go through them. And then we need to reschedule as soon as possible. I'm not sure when is, can you confirm when are you going to conclude this report?
We are concluding the report today, Chairperson, which is the 14th. So Chairperson can schedule any time after today.
Oh, okay, because it could have been advisable that we allow you to conclude the report and invite you later. It's fine. We'll then have to reschedule. Can we then get the pictures? Also, let's not entertain any responses until such time that you conclude the report. Maybe in our next meeting, that's when we can then, thoroughly engage with the report. If you conclude today, will you be confident to send it out today yet? Or when will you be able to be confident to circulate the report?
Chairperson, what we normally do is that we submit the report at least 72 hours before the time to the committee members to familiarize themselves with the report. So if Chairperson can just allow us so that when we give the committee the report, that the date for the next meeting should be after 72 hours to allow the members to read the reports. So any time, Chairperson, your office can liaise with my office, and we can do it as soon as possible.
All right, that's fine. Are they ready with the pictures? Then we can take a final decision and move to the next agenda item.
Thank you very
Chairperson.
much, Chair. Can we be allowed to have access to share the screens?
Yes.
This is the top of the roof, Chair, that was also damaged. I first look it from inside, then it's from the top now. This is the area, Chair, where one question was asking whether is there any other part of the roof that was damaged, the other buildings. This is the only part of the roof, Chair, that was damaged, not any other part.
So you will only replace that part?
Chair, I'm afraid to say what part now is going, because the technical assessment has been done up to today. That technical report, Chair, will be able to tell us which other parts have been affected. Remember, this is a visual assessment that we are showing here, but the technical assessment is looking at the integrity of the truss.
Can I also, just for interest's sake, because Parliament presence is a national key point, then what happens to this? Are you going to be able to source the same material that was used for this type of roofing? Is it still available in the market, or are you going to now bring something else? I think you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes, because of the heritage nature of the building.
Yes.
Chair. Yes, the technical assessment, Chair, will determine that, whether that part of the building, what material were used, whether they are of heritage nature, and our heritage advisor will be involved throughout the process. So the technical report, Chair, in terms of what has happened and what needs to be done, will be able to give us that indication.
Okay. All right, you may continue sharing the pictures.
This is inside room 454, where the fire started. This is how it was damaged.
Sure.
You know?
Hey, this is serious, ne? This was serious. I can't believe this.
This is the ceiling of room 454, where the fire took off, Chair. It was of those air conditioners that were on the top of the room, which where the fire started.
Mzandile, exactly where did the fire start? In the roof or where?
It started in the air conditioner.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
This is still inside. Chair, these are the pictures that we have at the moment that I have access to. But maybe when we come back, we can bring more pictures to the committee.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, when you come back, you can source more pictures for us. But I think now we have an idea of which committee room. No, it's a meeting room. It's a committee room, yeah. Which committee room was affected? Yeah, I think also members of the public and of the media, now they have a sense of the damages and which rooms we're referring to. Well, Minister, I want to thank you for attending the meeting and together with your delegation.
Chairperson, just before you conclude, I had my hand up.
Okay, Member Julius?
Sorry for the interruption, Chair. I know that we will get the final report, but just to make sure, Well, the final report, because there were questions on the whole precinct, can we get assurance from the department that it will include the safety in terms of fire of the whole, all the buildings on the precinct, and also the reports on whether, will the report include whether these things were in working order or any certificates will be included in the report. Thank you, Chair.
I have also my hands up, Chair.
Yes,
Just a little.
Nemato.
Thank you very much. Chair, I'm suggesting that when the report comes, it should also give us an idea on the matter of Sasaria funds. How much is our building being covered with? And the other thing that I wanted also to understand, when the minister was doing the presentation, she made mention that there was a decision taken years back that the government building should not have insurance.
Not insured, yeah.
Not insured, yes. I just wanted to ask if when they come to that meeting, they can be able to help us with that decision so that we can be able to understand. Time did not have a clear vision of making sure that the government buildings are insured so that we can be able to be informed. It should not be something that we just get in without knowing what happened before. Thank you.
Are there any further takers?
Chair,
Okay. Yes.
I just suggest that all the questions that we've asked, the presentation should, the next presentation should take a note of all those questions so that we don't have to ask those questions again. So they find expression in the presentation.
In the presentation. Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, it's fine. Thank you very much, members, for the way forward. I would also want the department to give us a report on a pending issue of renovations of kitchens. We were supposed to have scheduled them sometimes last year, but we couldn't. But Cindy will then give you a proper briefing as to what is it that we would want you to report on, so that you don't have to come back again. Maybe we can have these two items in the next meeting, the renovations of kitchens. Yeah, I am, and also if you can factor in all the questions that were posed in your report. I will not repeat. I think members they summarized quite very well. In the next 72 hours, you'll hear from us. It's an agent meeting that should sit maybe in the next week, Minister, depending on your availability. But if the report is ready, it's fine. Next week, sometimes next week, either Friday or Wednesday, we'll have to, it will depend on the schedule of Parliament as well.
Yes.
Thank you very much for
Honorable Chairperson, can I just make one last point? With regards to Sasria, my proposal will be that the committee call on the Department of the National Treasury or Finance to give the committee report about the size of the fund and how the fund is being spent. That can be done by National Treasury. Or unless Chairperson want me to source a report from National Treasury, but I think it will be best for the Honourable Committee to call on the National Treasury to give a report on that. The point raised by Honourable Julies about safety and security, certainly we will make sure that we bring also to the Honourable Committee any certificates that's being issued in terms of the Health and Safety Act. That should not be a problem. And then in terms of the renovation of the kitchen, Honorable Chairperson, we have a quarterly meeting with the presiding officers of both NCOP and the NA, where all the renovations of Parliament is included there. We also have a Parliamentary Villages Board consisting of members of Parliament, where we also report on a quarterly basis about the upgrades of the parliamentary villages. So we can certainly also bring those reports to the next committee. But just to make sure that we didn't miss anything that we've discussed today, I will send to Chairperson a list of what the members have requested, and then Chairperson can then whether I've left out anything else. But we certainly can be available to brief the committee as soon as possible. Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable members.
You're welcome. In fact, it will be the other way around. We have quite an effective support system. We will be able to send what members have raised in this meeting. Yeah, it will be the other way around, not you sending to us, but you can just confirm. So yes, you will get that from us, and then we'll also set up the time and the date for the next round of our meeting. And yes, please prepare the renovations report, the kitchen renovations report. We need it so that we can have a finality on that matter. Yes. And we would also want to arrange a tour, an oversight, to for the benefit of the public, so that they can also get a sense of when we say kitchens to Parliament, what is it that we're talking about, because it came across as though we're talking about expensive Italian kitchens. So it will be important that we also show them, when we say kitchens, parliamentary kitchens, what is it that we're referring to? For me, they're just ordinary. Yeah. So, and whether do we need those renovations or not, it's fine. Let's park that debate. It's for our next meeting. Minister, you're welcome. Thank you very much for your attendance, and then you will hear from us.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you, members.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cindy, can we get the
agenda, Chair, or the next presentation? Okay.
Yes. Julius, we're not doing oversight on the roof, man. We're doing oversight on the kitchens. Remember, we had this item said before.
Just a joke.
It's a bad joke. Someone's hand is up. Julius, Mematlo, your hand is up, or
it's the last hand. Sorry, ne?
Okay, that's fine. The next agenda item, briefing on Parliament's performance in the fourth quarter. Ma'am Jawa, who's going to take us through?
Thank you, Chair. Co-Chair, good afternoon to all the honorable members and members of the committee. Indeed, today we're going to share the presentation with the officials. I have my managers on the platform. Good afternoon to them too. Chair, I just wanted to check, Cindy. Also the co-host was somebody I thought is a journalist. I might be wrong.
No, the PLO is ministry.
Okay, all right. I was wondering. Okay, it was from the ministry. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chairperson. I just wanted to verify something. Thanks very much, Cindy, for correcting me. Chairperson and honorable members, I do want to bring to your attention a few things before we get into the the presentation itself. And this presentation today, I'm going to share with my colleagues, Mr. Ravi Mudli, who is the head of the Strategy Management and Governance, the acting CFO, Ruby, who is going to indeed share with us the costs, the budget, I'm sorry. First and foremost, I do want to notify the members that vote 2 of Parliament is due for debate on the 2nd of June. This is for 2021 going forward. And then I want to also indicate to yourselves that this is the 4th quarter, and overall indication is that Parliament is in the 4th quarter has performed 77% of the strategy as set out. And you will also see that in the presentation. Remember, we provided honorable members with a breakdown of where there was no expenditure as a result of the COVID. In this presentation, you will see that the quarter does indicate a few areas where there's an under expenditure. And remember that we also shared with yourselves that we're going to be investing a lot of that into our ICT infrastructure, because these are once-off under expenditures that you'd rather invest in a once-off program than try and put it elsewhere. And then finally, I do want to say there was a question on OSHI. We do have a section of occupational and health safety, which belongs to the Facilities and Institutional Support Service headed by Ms. Zongo. On this note, Chair, allow me to ask Mr. Ravi Mudli to lead us on the performance of Parliament in the 4th quarter, which is the last quarter, as we are also currently busy with the audit, which has now started by the AGSA. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Ravi.
Thank you, Acting Secretary. I just wish to say good afternoon first to the Chairperson of the committee, honourable members of the Joint Standing Committee, Acting Secretary and all officials. I'm just going to take you through the salient and key points of our 4th quarter performance and some of the things that we need to be aware of. Cindy, can I ask that you move on to, I think it's slide number 3, where I'll go straight into it. So what I'm going to say is that our 4th quarter report is drafted as per the indicators and targets of the revised 2021 annual performance plan, which I'll remind members of the committee that we tabled in mid-July of 2020 after the Minister of Finance had tabled a new budget in Parliament. And the reason that revised APP was done was because Parliament's budget had been adjusted downwards by 115 million. And we needed to reflect that budget adjustment in the APP. So the report tracks 14 indicators as per the APP. 13 of these indicators had targets for the 4th quarter, and 1 indicator only had an annual target. Of the 13 measures that were tracked for the 4th quarter, 10 of the indicators met target, and 3 missed target. This translates to 10 out of 13 indicators meeting their target, which is a 77% institutional performance. Just to that for us, the performing environment was impacted and continues to be impacted by significant budget cuts that we have seen. I think the committee has been taken through the number of budget cuts that we've been subject to through our allocations from Treasury, and also the COVID-19 operating environment, which was affected by lockdown. So the other thing to note as well is that while we were impacted by COVID-19 and lockdown conditions, our APP targets were, however, based on a normal operating environment. So the 77% institutional performance in that context is actually quite good, but we'll go through the details of that a bit later on in the presentation. Thanks, Cindy. Maybe move on. This slide gives a snapshot view of all our indicators in the APP, and obviously the ones in green are where we met target. The gray is where it's not applicable for the fourth quarter, and the reds were the ones that we missed target on. I'll cover those indicators where we did miss target as I'm going through program performance a bit later on in terms of the slides. Thank you, Cindy. Just move on. So this is a snapshot view of what I've already said. So it gives it's just a pictorial representation of where our institutional performance is at. This slide is simply showing how Parliament's budget is allocated per program. There's nothing in particular I want to focus on here. Cindy, move on, please. This slide is just showing the actual amounts, what our budgets were, what our actual expenditure was, our variances, and where they've been underspent on the various programs of Parliament. Thank you. Just move on, Cindy. Cindy, I think move on to, I'll tell you which slide to stop at. Go on. Okay. That slide was simply by economic classification. I think the next slide I want to focus on is maybe slide number 15. I think it's Cindy, just go through it. Where I talk, yes. So now I'm going to go into the individual programs in terms of performance. Program 1 has got 2 performance indicators in the fourth quarter. Both targets were achieved in the fourth quarter, so there's 100% performance for Program 1. The next slide will tell you which indicators those are. So in Program 1, the first indicator relates to your Office of the Institution Supporting Democracy. For the fourth quarter, the target was met 100%. And the second one as well also relates to, in Program 1, your OISD, and the target was 100% met. Cindy, move on. I think just move on to the next slide while I focus on Program 2. Yeah. Okay, so Program 2 also has got 2 performance indicators in the fourth quarter. Both indicators met their target for the quarter, so there's 100% performance in Program 2. Let's move to the next slide where we look at the details. In Program 2, there's an indicator related to members' capacity building programs. It specifically relates to the legislative sector support. Then also the legislative sector support has an indicator on sector strategy implementation. Both these targets were met as indicated in the table. Let's move on to Program 3. Okay, so Program 3 had a total of 6 indicators. Now, of these, one indicator only gets measured annually. There are three indicators which met their target in the quarter, and 2 indicators did not meet their target. We'll go through the details now. So the one relating to joint parliamentary program, because it's an annual parliamentary framework, obviously it's there, it's just not measured in the quarter. It's an annual target. Your programming indicators for the National Assembly and National Council of Provinces met their target 100%, so there were no issues for those indicators. Move on to the next slide, please. Then in terms of what is known as the Core Service Business Charter, this is made up of quite a few sub-indicators. In fact, I think it's 13 sub-indicators, all the way from research provision, content advice, legal advice, etc. For the fourth quarter, the target had been 93%. And the actual performance was quite a bit over the target at 99.21% for the fourth quarter. And this was a significant uptick from, let's say, the first and second quarters of the year, where the business was still struggling with adapting to COVID conditions. So performance had picked up significantly in both the third and fourth quarters. So there is an overperformance there. Next slide, please. So this slide shows you the 13 sub-indicators of the Core Service Business Charter, which I spoke about. And it shows the performance of each of these sub-indicators, all the way from house papers through to Hansard, through to research, etc., for the fourth quarter. And as you can see, performance had been quite good across the board. Next slide, please. Okay, so these are the two indicators which did not meet target for quarter four. Now, both the indicator on access to participate and participation in parliamentary activities, both these indicators have annual targets that are measured through independent surveys administered by Ipsos. In past years, these have come out as green. We did meet them. However, what the surveys picked up this year that the perception of public participation was a lot lower this year, particularly around some of the challenges to public participation activities that Parliament had under COVID lockdown conditions. So obviously your normal public participation activities could not happen the same way it has happened in previous years. And this definitely did affect public perception of the public participation activities that we do. So that is why those are red. Thanks. Next slide, please.
Mr. Moodley, my computer's frozen again, but Cindy is ready to take over from me.
Oh, okay. I'll just wait until it's put on again. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it was that one. Okay. Yeah, Cindy, I think I'm finished with that slide. I'll just move on to the next to program 4. Yes. Okay. Thank you. So program 4, which is support services, has in our APP 4 indicators. Of these 4 indicators for the quarter, 3 were met and 1 target was not met. I'll go through the detail in the next slide. Okay. So basically, in terms of our communication services indicator of percentage population who are aware of the business of Parliament, we met target. And then the IT indicator on percentage of universal access to our systems slightly overperformed. The target was 94. The actual performance was 94.13, which was not statistically significant in any way. Next slide, please. Then in terms of facility management services, these are normally, there's normally a survey done to gauge both member satisfaction, staff satisfaction, etc., with some of our facility management services. The performance on this indicator is down compared to previous years. However, it is important to note that your facility management services were impacted by lockdown conditions. So during the performance period of the year, none of your facilities management services like your restaurants, etc., were operating under normal circumstances. This definitely impacted the survey results. Then the indicator on talent management services, which is in human resources indicator, there was an overperformance of this indicator, mainly driven by successful implementation of certain development programs, leadership programs, and sort of succession planning initiatives. Next slide, Cindy. Okay. I think after that, let's go on to program 5. I just want to say program 5 is not it does not have performance indicators. Program 5 is simply direct charges, your expenditure on members' facilities and transfers to political parties. So it does not have performance indicators. So let's move on. I think I want to go to the conclusion. I just want to end, members, just to remind. So for Q4, we're at a 77% institutional performance. I want to reiterate that institutional performance does remain high and is comparable with the last couple of years. Despite the fact that we've had significant shocks to operational budget, I think honorable members have been taken through the budget cuts we've experienced over the last couple of years. And the fact that we even had to adopt to a new COVID-19 operating model. However, I will conclude by saying that the institution still remains at risk of its operating model being disrupted by further budget cuts. So any of the anticipated future budget cuts, which we have raised in previous meetings, does pose a threat to our operating model and consequently institutional performance. The institution has done well, even maintaining a level of performance considering significant budget cuts. So in order to remain the same, significant improvements had to have been effected in order to stay at the same level of institutional performance. Thank you, Chairperson. I think I'll stop with my presentation there. I don't know if you want to add anything, Acting Secretary.
Chair, thanks very much. We'll get guidance from you whether the committee would like to engage with the substance of the report and cross-reference with expenditure against each program, because we're trying to break the monotony. Normally we go from table to table and highlight certain things that are obvious. We do have the budget notes. So Chair, we will be guided by you whether you'd like us to go through the various expenditure against the program, or rather we receive questions from members in relation to the expenditure pattern. But I will await guidance. We are ready to do anything that committee would prefer should be done.
No, let's continue with your presentation, then we can take questions at the end of your presentation.
Thank you so much, Chair. I will ask Ruby, Acting CFO, to speak to the expenditure and refer particularly to areas where there are evidently there's under expenditure without necessarily going from, line by line of each of the expenditure, starting from program 1 and also the consolidated budget of Parliament as we conclude this year in the fourth quarter. Ruby? Miss November, Miss November. Thank you, over to you.
Thank you, Acting Secretary, and good afternoon, Chair and honorable members. I will ask Cindy to take me slightly through the different slides, and as Secretary has said, we will be guided by questions by you. I will also stop, if you don't mind me showing my face, just so that there is a good engagement. Sometimes it does get a bit cut when there is too much, but for now, Cindy, if you can just go to the next slide specifically. This is just the budget, the next one. No, the one that you just have. Yes, this one. In terms of the financial performance, honorable members, this is for the fourth quarter, that is January to March 2021. Parliament has basically spent 67%, or 578.5 million of its appropriated budget for this fourth quarter, and that is roughly an amount of 2.3 billion, or 89% of the spend in the financial year. There's also an underspend, as Secretary has alluded to, of 285.978 million. However, this specific amount will be reallocated in the next financial year as per the FMPPLA. With regards to the direct charges, as mentioned, this is for members' salaries. The spending on the direct charges is basically 121.735 million, or 108% for the fourth quarter budget. And as you can see, members, there is an overspending of 9.313 million. Obviously, we have requested National Treasury for a refund because this is, as indicated, a direct charge, and they have subsequently done as such. If you can go to the next slide, please, Cindy. This is budget allocation by economic classification. If you can go to the reading, the next slide. I think it has been shown. Let's go to the next. Yeah. In terms of the compensation of member spending, which I've indicated is 108% in the fourth quarter, the overall spending for this year, which is overspent as a result of the budget reductions, and also a payment of loss of office and exit gratuities. With regards to the compensation on employees, the spending of that has been 73%, or 275.364 million of the fourth quarter budget. There is an underspending of 100.320 million at the end of the financial year, and that, members, is basically due to termination and also delay in the filling of the critical positions as a result specifically of the lockdown level 5 and 4. Then on compensation of or goods and services relating to the APP, the spending thereof is 16% of 28.85 million of the fourth quarter. And at the end of the financial year, there's roughly an underspending of 147.026 million. And this underspending in terms of goods and services, it's obviously a direct result of the COVID pandemic restrictions that has been brought about, and also precautionary measures that's been implemented. All invoices, it's necessary to mention this, for services rendered at the end of March, but has not been paid yet, has been accrued, and that is obviously as per the standard of GRAP, which might increase the expenditure, but not that much. If you move to the next one, goods and services, that relates to members' entitlement, the spending there is 47% in the fourth quarter, budget of 48.243 million. And there again is an underspending of 25.332 million. And this committee is due to the fact that members were obviously not utilizing the entitlements due to the restriction and or suspension of flights. And obviously also there has been virtual meetings introduced, other improved ways of communicating with each other. Then in terms of transfers, spending on transfer payments, which basically relates to political parties that are represented in Parliament, is 95%, or 125.637 million of the 131.791 million budget of the fourth quarter. The underspend there of 6154 million, or 1% on transfer, is due to the political parties that has not substantiated the financial statements which have been queried. Thus, funds has been withheld until Parliament has received relevant notification or the outstanding documentation. With regards to the capital expenditure, which is 22% or 4.792 million of the fourth quarter budget of 21.251 million. There again is an underspend of 16.459 million, and invoices for obviously relating to equipment received by year end and not paid has been accrued for. The next slide. Yeah, I think Mr. Moodley, Chair, has basically indicated already, and I have touched on. This is just in terms of program 1. Again, and in terms of the offices under program 1 is the Speaker, offices of the Chair, Parliamentary Budget Office, Office Institutions, Supporting Democracy, and then Treasury Advice Office. As you can see again, the Chair, the underspent overall for that quarter, but they are on par, as Mr. Moodley indicated, in terms of performance. This is just the offices relating to program 1. If you can go to program 2, Cindy, just go to the written of program 2. This again is the offices of the Secretary, Strategic Management and Governance, Finance Office, Registrar of Members' Interests, Internal Audit, and Legislative Sector Support. Again, in terms of the budget, they are on par. There is a variance of 58% under this administration. Next slide, program 2. I think under program 2, I also need to mention it is the COVID. If you can go to that slide, Cindy. It's the COVID spend. Yes, just go back to just after this, the COVID spend. Yeah, yes. This is just in total. The administration, as we've indicated, has spent 42% of the fourth quarter budget. And the underspend, as we said, is due to the national lockdown, as most of the activities has been postponed. This information below is under Finance Office, which has an amount of 14.93 million for emergency procurement, COVID-19, and expenditures as per the quarter, a total of 5.549 as per these commodities, data, airtime, health and safety, licenses, live streaming and subtle services, etc. So for COVID committee, Parliament has roughly spent in this quarter 5.54 in total. If you can go to program 3, expenditure, Cindy. Program 3 includes your events, National Assembly, National Council of Provinces, Core Business Support, Knowledge and Information Services, Institutional Relations and Protocol. Again, the committee for this fourth quarter, a variance of 48%. Cindy, I think that is just, if you can go to program 4, this is all I have to say here. If you can go to program 4. Program 4, which includes officers, deputy secretary support, parliamentary communication, human resource, information communication and technology, institutional support services, and member support. The support services has basically spent 59%, or 100.228 million of the budget of 168.86 million in the fourth quarter. Also to indicate at the end of the financial year, there's 389.126 or 85% of the budget has been spent under this program. You can go to program 5, Cindy. I think that's all that I have to say there. Program 5. Under program 5, it's members' facilities and then the transfers to political parties. The associated services, just to mention, has spent 78% or 169.739 million of the budget of 216.913 million in the fourth quarter. And at the end of the financial year, it was 653.128 million or 93% of the budget that has been spent. And again, just to indicate the underspending, again, is due to the national lockdown restrictions. It was minimal travel that happened and less members joining PARMET as well as terminations. So that is what I can just indicate. In terms of the transfers under this program as well, spending on transfers that relates to the political parties in this quarter, fourth quarter, is 95% or 125.637 million of the 131.791 million fourth quarter budget. Again, members, just to mention, at the end of the financial year, there is a 1% variance, and that is the amount that was withheld from political parties for the amounts that has been queried by the administration. I think this is the last slide in terms of the spent direct charges. This is the compensation, again, of members. And the spending relating to direct charges basically is 121.735 million or 108% of the fourth quarter budget. I think here we need to reiterate that there has been an overspend, and this overspend is basically due to the budget cuts. There has been a 30 million effected in October, and then also relating to the payment of loss of office and exit gratuity. However, this is a direct charge against the National Revenue Fund, and as alluded to, it has been requested or to be refunded by National Treasury. Thank you, Chair and honorable members. Thank you very much.
Chair, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you very much. We will await an engagement with the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Shawa. The worrying issue is that the Treasury Advice Office has not been established. I mean, from 2009 to date, I would not want to say that we've been hammering this since the 6th Parliament. I want to take it back because it's a legislative requirement that the Treasury Advice Office should be established. So from 2009 to date, it has not yet been established. It's an indictment on us. I'm saying us because if we would want to exonerate ourselves from this problem, then it would mean that we also saying we're giving up on holding the executive accountable. So I'm saying that as members, so that in each and every question, this matter should not be left unattended. Members should always raise this matter. I think the second worrying issue for me is the politics around the loss of office. Because if you look at our over expenditure, it's as a result of loss of office. Are we ever going to win this battle? Is Treasury coming on board? Is there any work done to make sure that we really win this battle and finally we get this burden of loss of office of the books of Parliament, and Treasury takes responsibility. At some point, I know that there were attempts to have, I don't know whether it was weekly or quarterly meetings with Treasury on this matter. Are you still continuing to engage Treasury on this matter, or it has been left to resolve itself? But it looks like it's not going to go away anytime soon. So I'm not sure if we still need to talk about it, but we'll talk about it as part of our responsibility for oversight. So those are the two quite main worrying factors for me. Members, I would open the floor for further engagements. I see there's a hand of Honorable Mahlo. Cindy, can you help me in this process?
Yes, Chair. It's Ms. Mahlo, Mr. Julius, Mr. Khai, and
let's take those
only
three
hands
for now. Yeah, in that order, members.
Honorable Chair, let me take this opportunity and welcome the presentation, which is of high standard. We applaud the acting secretary and the team. My question will be on program 3, which is under parliamentary by public participation, which is under performance. Now, I would like to be informed if there are turnaround strategies which will be used after they've realized that indeed, yes, I understand that it was because of COVID-19 that made this target not to be achieved. Now, if the office can be able to assist me with the turnaround strategy on this matter, on how are you going to solve it? Because if you look at what is happening in the world, you will realize that COVID is not something that is going to end today. It is going to be take some time with us, because now we are getting into the third wave. What is the turnaround strategy in making sure that the public is participating on matters of Parliament? Is there any digital way that at the end of the day in the turnaround strategy we can see? Because I think one of the presenters touched on the issue of the COVID module. Is there anything that we can see in the COVID module that is going to be used to tell us how this target will be improving? Thank you.
Members, I've said in that order. I thought it wouldn't be necessary for me to point. It will be Member Khai and Member Julius and Member Kaiso.
Thank you. I thought it was going to be Honorable Julius first before me.
Oh, sorry. Let me see my list. It's fine. Member Julius, are you ready?
Yeah, Co-Chair, Honorable Khai can go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks very much, Chair, and also thanks to the acting secretary and the team for the presentation. Perhaps, Chair, I think in line with what Honorable Mahlo was saying with regard to program 3, where achievement was not 100%. I'm not sure whether perhaps when we revised the budget because of the cuts as a result of COVID-19, we should have also revised the non-financial performance targets, such as these ones are on program 3. Because really there's no way that these could have been achieved. Perhaps we could have revised them. I'm not sure whether in the APP of 2021-22, these have not been revised, because when we deal with Q1 of 2021-2022, I'm sure we will still have these challenges in terms of achieving these two targets under program 3. So I just want to check if we have taken care of that. I see that Honorable Marshall is suggesting a turnaround strategy, but perhaps in the other alternative will be to revise that particular target for during this period that we're still struggling with COVID-19. Because for me, there's no way that we'll be able to achieve those two targets. With regard to program 4, the target that was not achieved, which is a client satisfaction level. I don't know if there are common areas that have been raised with regard to non-satisfaction with regard to that particular target, and also what are the strategies in terms of addressing particularly those common areas that should be lifted out and then be dealt with, so that going forward those issues are then addressed. The other issue, I think also in program, if I'm not mistaken, program 3 or 2, that has to do with minutes and the translation. I know there is an achievement with regard to that, but the achievements are not 100%. They are at 95%. If we can be told as to exactly what really are the challenges with regard to the minutes and the issue of translation. Just the last point is on the budget office. Given that now it's independent, are we going to have a different structure that will be looking at the performance of that particular office, or it will still form part of the report of the institution as a whole? Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity.
Chairperson, thank you very much. Let me go. Firstly, I'd like to say we continue to stress every year that the indicators and targets are very, very low for these programs. And I'll try to go through so that you can at least see. And I would like the acting secretary to Parliament and maybe other officials present to just answer me this question. Are you happy that these targets are sufficient? Because it has a direct impact on the work of Parliament. Chairperson, 77% of targets met. With these low targets, 77%, I would beg to differ with the presenters that 77% is quite good. It's not. It's simply not. And we're begging every year, please, let's look at these performance indicators, the targets. If you look at program 1, co-chair, 2 targets to achieve, 2 targets to achieve. But if I look at the legal advice provided within 7 days, we have meetings in the Chief Whip's Forum, we have meetings in programming committee where these problems constantly come up. What's the quality of the advice? Now, if you just say we're providing advice, this is a performance indicator, it's extremely low because we need to look at the quality of that advice. And I'm not sure whether all the advice that we got was within 7 days. I'm not too sure about that because we're sitting with constitutional court cases where Parliament must act on, and we're still waiting on advice. We're still waiting on advice in programming. We're waiting on advice in Chief Whip's Forum that is constantly being said that still busy with it, still busy with it. I don't know how they get to that unless the target is very low, simply to say that we provide advice. That advice can be 1 sentence, 2 sentences, or we procured that. What's the actual performance in this target? And I think it's very low, Chairperson. If you look at program 2, it says in one of the targets, one UJ class was done. 1 UJ class. And I have another question. You don't even include the parliamentary bursaries because money is being given to members of parliament. I also get a bursary from parliament. Nowhere is it mentioned in this. What's the success rate, the value for money for parliament? How do we develop members? Because this is about member development. How can you not have the bursaries on that? And it's only said 1 UJ class. Is that sufficient, Secretary to Parliament? Do you think it is sufficient to have 1 class and say you have met 100% of a target? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it could have been done better. And I don't think that take the thing of if it was COVID and so forth, because nowadays all classes are being held online in most of our universities and other institutions in our country. Chairperson, Program 3. Program 3 is achieved, but we had challenges with translation in this 4th quarter. Huge challenges with translation. And the Secretary of Parliament had to go and look for people that can do translation services. Members in the House had problems with translation. But if you look at this, it's so beautiful, 77%, quite good. It's not. It's not. I cannot be with Program 3. I cannot 3. Sorry, I cannot be satisfied. Because if you look, and I'll join the other members, public participation, it's not that difficult to be innovative. When COVID struck, we immediately went to not hybrid sessions. We went on Zoom. We went on other platforms. We went to hybrid sessions because we knew it is very important that Parliament sits. And equally is public participation. We cannot say it could not have been done. What was the innovation there? What did you do innovatively to make this happen? This is a constitutional imperative. It's not just something that we can say it couldn't have been done. Why couldn't we say as members of Parliament we couldn't sit? We couldn't have a sitting of Parliament. We knew it's a constitutional imperative. The country would come to a standstill if we do not do this. Why can we leave this thing to just say it wasn't possible because of it? Online, we suggested last year that there should at least be some form of communication, a dedicated station on SABC to view, so that people can view parliamentary sessions. And so that's a step in the right direction. Nothing is said about that, but we did everything we could. Members are talking and talking year in, year out about the same thing. But when we get this report, everything was done. That is because, co-chairperson, our issues is not being brought onto the performance, the targets and indicators in this. It is done one side by the officials and we don't get the say in what is being, what that target should be. I think we must delve into that issue, co-chairperson. If you look at program 5, my last input, chairperson, the direct charges, there's no performance indicators, I understand. But how do we hold anyone accountable? This is our job. It's this committee's job to hold Parliament accountable, the executive. How do we hold them accountable if there are no indicators? At least tell us otherwise. Don't just say there are no performance indicators. We cannot, I mean, we must hold them accountable. Tell us what happened there so that we can at least respond to what you are saying. Chairperson, I will stop there, but my main point is, I'm stressing this. Whatever we as a committee ask you, whatever we ask, it must be put onto the indicators and targets. It's very easy to go and put a few indicators and targets, and it looks good. It's all green on this report. But we know as members what's happening in Parliament. Not everything is green and rosy. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Julius. Member Kaiso?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Julius, please lower your
Chair.
hand. Sorry, Ndade Kaiso. Thank you, Ndade Kaiso.
Thank you, Honorable Co-Chair. Mine is on the, let me perhaps start on the issue of raised on the slide. What is it? But it is on underspending. Yes, one could, acknowledge the crisis caused by COVID-19, which resulted in some of the activities of the Parliament be put under strain, especially with regard to interview being run at physical addresses. So, which has then resulted in the retardation of the program of, recruitment. But I think the slide made mention of the level 4 and level 5, which was last year in 2020. We are now at level 1 of the lockdown. So maybe level 4 and level 5 lockdown should no longer be applicable in terms of, these restrictions. I thought maybe there will be a process now which seek to fast track that since the declaration of lockdown level 1. So such that now there are processes as we speak that now, yes, we have acknowledged the levels 4 and 5, which has resulted into the retardation of the progress. But now since that
Chair,
lockdown, the
I think the
issue of
Honorable
understanding.
Kaiser,
Go back
if you
to slide on the public participation.
maybe Honorable, if you switch off your video, we can't
Sorry.
hear the questions that you're raising.
Okay. Honorable Chair. Okay.
I'm with you, Member Kaiso. Please switch off your video.
Okay, switch off, Honorable Co-Chair. So my next question is on the public participation in Parliament. No, I think we've raised on a number of occasions on this matter. I think this matter is still relevant that there should be at least, because we don't know the date when the COVID-19 is going to end. But I think we needed to be proactive here and at least come up. There should be a mechanism to counteract this, this development of non-participation of participation of public, in the Parliament, because it's very, very much critical. So we should be at least venture into this, difficulty and overcome it through introduction of, innovative measures, because we can't wait. We are at lockdown level 1. So there should be measures that we interimly, introduce such that now the public participation, it is not, impeded during this process. Whilst we understand that there is a difficulty in as far as, physical movement because of the condition imposed by COVID-19. So I just wanted to raise that, and also while on the issue of the target might have not been reached quite sufficiently, but I don't think we necessarily have to not to do anything with in as far as being innovative. We can review in a way, but I think they should run, simultaneously with the issue of innovation, because we can't wait. Public participation, we can't wait, Honorable Co-Chair. So I think let me stop here. If there's anything, I'll come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. There are no more hands. Mechawa.
Thank you. First, to say thank you very much to the comments and to members and these invigorating questions. They are well received. Let me just start with the fact that my HR is on the platform. He can explain the efforts we have taken to fill those critical positions: the CFO, Treasury Advice Office, Head of Security, and the last one is the Chief Audit Executive. Those are the 4 critical positions that are very important for the leadership of the institution. He will just provide the status of where these matters are. So I'll give that to the HRE. I will deal with, Honorable Julius, you are right. You are right in that the 4th quarter APP we are sharing with you is not derived from the strategy of this current Parliament. The strategy of this current Parliament, remember when we came back, we said to you, we're using an interim, an overlay of an APP. In the 1st quarter of the strategy of this Parliament, Honorables, you're going to note that we do not do turnaround time anymore. We do quality, accuracy, turnaround time, usability of the information. Because indeed, in Chapter 3 of the FMPPLA, it does say that the executive will oversee the preparation of Parliament's strategic plan. And I think over time, what we have struggled with is our APP reporting to you has always focused onto the administration part, and you're correct. So we have moved that from that side to say, what is it that members of Parliament have to assess themselves on? And you're correct. if you look at how we presented our strategy, which in fact, because the committee did postpone your strategic plan, which was set for last week, Friday, we wanted to show you that the input of the members is going to be critical in the six-term strategy, because there we are setting out an automated process where you will feed in to say, this is how you feel about this legal opinion. This is how you feel about the research. This is how you feel about any content given to yourselves. As you look at our strategy, we're looking at the NDP, reduction of poverty, inequality, creation of jobs. And we can't do that because those are the impact areas where Parliament members as the public office bearers are supposed to play a role in ensuring that the programs and the APPs that you are passing are addressing reduction of poverty. So therefore, you will have indicators against which we report, and those targets derived by members of Parliament. So what we are giving you is, it's obviously based on the APP that was approved, not even last year, the other year, then May 31st May last year. Because we plan backwards, we plan ahead rather, not backwards. So you will see that when we come back, and in fact, to co-chair, I hope that we will still have that strategy with the committee so that you then agree with us on how we're going to develop indices for the impact that members of Parliament have to have on the community through oversight. So that is something that's going to be slightly different from what we're reporting on this fourth quarter. I want to also say that we have a lot of sub-indicators that are sitting at an operational plan. At an APP, we try and elucidate only strategic targets that have to be driven. But there are operational plans that have got many, many, many indicators that against which we have to deliver, as well as the targets. So that's, I thought I needed to flag that, Honorable Julius, and thank you so much. And we hear you, we understand very well. What we are battling with now, even yesterday, I think Ravi can add, is to make sure that those processes are also automated. You don't necessarily have to respond to a questionnaire all the time. Both the secretaries of the two houses, we have actually agreed that unless we assess or we confirm or affirm the levels of satisfaction of members, them expressing that on the work that we give them, we obviously will be measuring ourselves and not measuring you. So if that change doesn't happen, Honorable Julius, I think you have all the right to tell us we're not doing our work. And then I want to also talk on the surveys. Unfortunately, when we commissioned surveys, they were external commissioned surveys and therefore conducted by independent entities, which is an advantage. It's not unfortunate. It's an advantage because the surveys, we want to use them as a mirror against which we assess ourselves and how we work. Obviously, when a survey is commissioned, Honorable Khai, we couldn't withdraw it because it was already paid for, and the sample, the field workers had to do face-to-face. And of course, as a result of that, we couldn't have changed this APP target in the middle after given the fact that we're in the middle of having commissioned it. And as a result, we kept the surveys. And now that these surveys are conducted face-to-face, there's a whole sampling tool that is used based on the census of the country and the demographics and the variables as gender, class, income, education. So, and the field workers did conduct the survey. In fact, if all was well and done, they meant going to the houses, doing it face-to-face during October and November, starting late September, October, November. So those targets were impacted on by the outcome thereof. And the surveys that members did, the client satisfaction surveys that you report on, was also disrupted by the fact that by the time we sent you, and I think a lot of members came back quite irritated, we sent you the links to say, please complete this questionnaire. It was during the time we were transitioning from being a bit more ICT savvy. And of course, those had hurdles. And it's always the case with surveys. And I think, Honorable Khai, you're correct to say we must look at other methods. Those methods have been looked at, and I think I can get Ravi to say a little bit about what we are putting into place now, because we cannot blame COVID, and COVID indeed is going to be with us for a long time to come. As Honorable Matlo was saying, this is the strategy that we're using. You spoke about the strategy, turnaround strategy. We are using a strategy that I'd like Ravi to share with the committee, Mr. Motley to share with the committee. I'm going to leave the other issues to my colleagues in terms of the recruitment, in terms of the other platforms that we are using for public participation. Mr. Kaso and Mr. Pindela, Advocate Pindela, can talk on those points. And then, of course, Mr. Moloto can talk on the points of how are we expanding our reach to the population of South Africa, because we just cannot do, it's not business as usual. We have to be very creative. And he can also talk about the social media reach, the Facebook and everything that they are doing there. So I'll leave that with them. Before that, I will just say, Honorable Khai, you're correct. The budget office is now not going to be our responsibility going forward. We won't be reporting on the budget office. They have, in terms of the Money Bills Act and the amendment of that act, they have what they call the Advisory Council, and they will have to be reporting there because the amendment of that act says clearly that the budget office does not belong to the administration of Parliament. Chairperson, let me give the opportunity to HRE to talk to the matters of recruitment and those critical positions, and to Mr. Kaso to speak and Advocate Pindela to speak on public participation, as well as Ndate Moloto on public participation and what approaches are we taking there. And then, of course, finally, Ravi will talk on how are we improving this, how are we improving our way in which we collect data scientifically. And of course, he can also refine the points that Honorable Julius raised, which are quite critical. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
I don't want you to but I want you to also reflect on the establishment of the Treasury Advice Office. I want you to also reflect on the loss of office politics. Are we going to win? Those are the two issues that I've raised. Please do not avoid them. They are important to us.
Okay, ma'am. Let me address those. Thanks very much. The loss of office gratuity, it's a discussion that was held between the executive authority and the Minister of Finance in December 2020. Yes, I think we had our last meeting, December 2020, around the 7th of December, where we were showing them that it is unfair for Parliament to be given responsibility of paying out gratuity when members lose their seats, and also when they resign, they come into Parliament and they burden Parliament. In that conversation, it was clear that this was a gazetted, I think, in 2006. And Funny Minister of Finance was saying to us, why do you spend money you don't have? We said, it is law, we have to pay out as per the Gazette of 2006. And in that meeting, he was clear that this is not an administrative matter. It is actually a political matter that has to be driven and be placed on members of Parliament must go back and discuss exactly the loss of office gratuity and the cost it is bearing on us, because often we don't even know how many people will be resigning. And when they do that, ma'am, the former, obviously, I suppose my logic tells me, before you're a member of cabinet, at least the majority of it, you are sworn in as a member of Parliament. So it happens that when they then resign through Parliament as members of Parliament. Okay, we have to carry that burden. So, Honorable Co-Chair, this is a matter that has to be raised at the presiding officer's level, and I think it's a matter that has to be raised very quickly. It is similar to the entitlements. The issue of the entitlements was also raised in the same meeting, and it was agreed that there must be a very, very clear and sober discussion around the entitlements of the executive, because they're almost double or 3 times higher than the entitlements. I'm talking travel entitlements. They're even more than of those of the members of parliament. The members of the executive receive more tickets, and that budget sits with us. It is there in this report, as we were showing you, that because of lesser and lesser of members traveling, those entitlement allowance, it's actually hidden under, it's called APP on one of these. I'll just show you very quickly, ma'am, if you allow me. It is under the program 5, I think, where that amount of money is sitting there, and that is appropriated money. Truth be told, if a discussion is held, and it should be held much higher above the administration, to say we must rationalize the entitlements of all members, including those of ex-cabinet ministers. We must reduce or not even cover family partners and so on. We have that whole analysis. And I think one of the members actually asked for data, which was released in the newspapers. So those are the things that we should be looking at. But like I say, ma'am, these are the deliberations of budget and how budget of parliament is structured. That must be held at the presiding officer's level. And of course, with this committee, because you are the ones who exercise oversight over the budget of parliament, you may see that some of that budget can actually be diverted into critical infrastructure like ICT infrastructure, ma'am. So those are the 2 areas you were raising. Treasury office, ma'am, I was thinking, I can talk to it now. We've had three, not 1, not 2, 3 interviews, headhunting, talent search for this position. And we are now on to the 3rd one. We've had a short listing last week. We are working with the Treasury, and we have got 2 independent panelists. And in the May month, we hope to have interviews and hopefully appoint for a Treasury advice office, because you are correct, Chairperson, that the Treasury advice is critical. It's been sitting, but we have had failures not getting suitable candidates. And the truth of the matter is, part of it is there's a time where we've got a very, very excellent young woman, but the relocation of most young women into Cape Town is quite a stress. Unlike if it's a male, they find it easy to uproot their families. Females, we have found, as we recruit and trying to address gender, we found that it's quite a struggle to offer females positions in parliament and get them uprooting their families outside the Western Cape. And that's one of the things that we've been facing in most of the positions, particularly that of the Treasury Advice Office. But we hope that by end of this month, we will be telling a different story, because that Treasury Office, ma'am, is correct in terms of the FMPPLA. That person has to advise on oversight of how budget is spent. They're supposed to develop regulations and certain SOPs around the budget. So we definitely need that office done. And hopefully by May, we'll be able to have filled that position if we get the right person. Thank you, Chair. I hope I covered the points you raised before I asked you to give me permission to ask other officials to address the questions. I will wait for your guidance, ma'am.
Before we do that, I wish to have not mentioned the fact that there was a female candidate, because now to me it says that because she's a female, then she was never allowed an opportunity to negotiate her salary. I would not want to conclude that. I know that you are sensitive towards female issues, but I think if that was the case, then what was wrong with that? Is it because of she's female, therefore an institution like Parliament will not allow a female to then say, if you want my services, they will come to this cost? I think that if it was a male, maybe you could have adjusted to that. So I don't want to comment because it was a female qualifying for that position. Therefore, nothing was done about that. Issues of relocations, if we are headhunting, I think that's what we need to factor in. We can't avoid that because if we don't have the provinces, then we'll be able to give us qualifying people. Therefore, we'll have to adjust as such and try get the relevant people who will then be able to give support to Parliament. But to say from 2009 to date, we are unable to fill that vacancy, and we will only recruit a person who's a local person in our conditions. It's not going to work, ma'am. Let's adjust and try headhunt again. If conditions are not suitable, let's make the conditions favorable for the best candidate.
Okay, Chair. No, I do want to correct. It's not because of the salary. She declined because she could not relocate her family. I can tell you now, we have a risk office manager, Julia Sifago. She is on the platform. She started 3 weeks ago, female, capable, qualifications, and she's joined us. She was able to relocate, come to Cape Town. HR can come in here to just address the anxiety of the members. We will never marginalize on the basis that somebody cannot be given a salary and also are supported at least, because we do have those grades that are much, our grades comparatively with the DPSA are slightly much higher than those of the DPSA. And we do provide support for the first few months. But Chair, let me just allow Dr. Mukonyana to comment on these ones and recruitment, and to just correct that it was not because she was female. It was because she couldn't uproot her family, and she came back to us. She said, I cannot take your position at all because I can't move. We're not focusing on local. But let me allow my other managers, Chair. That's why I have them on the platform. Thanks, Mpo. If you allow me. Mr. Mukonya.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair. Good afternoon, Honorable Members. Member, indeed, I can confirm that indeed the offer was made and the candidate indicated that she could not join us because of family circumstances. With regards to the other positions, I think you've already mentioned the position of the head of risk. And just also to remind Honorable Chair, Honorable Members, I think I did mention the last time when I presented on behalf of HR to this committee that indeed our drive and our efforts when it comes to senior management positions are to ensure that we attract as much as possible the female candidates to our management positions, and which is what we've been doing. And just to also highlight that when it comes to the position of Chief Audit Executive, that process is complete. We are just awaiting the audit committee to give us a green light so that we can then make the appointment. And even there, the recommended candidate is a female. When it comes to the position of Chief Financial Officer, even there, we had gone through now 2 rounds of interviews, and at the second round, we had a recommended candidate, and unfortunately, obviously, because our processes are very tight, we then picked up some of the issues in the candidate's profile when we were doing verifications, that in terms of our policies, we could not continue with the candidate. We are now in the 3rd round, where we've been using a talent search company to also find suitable candidates, and we do actually have a short list of the possible candidates that would be interviewed by the panel, and also that is happening this month in May, actually. And as highlighted with regards to the head of treasury, the interviews will also be taking place this month. The panel met, shortlisted, and even agreed that we are going to send the candidates for assessments. Those assessments to the identified shortlisted colleagues, candidates, have happened this week. So as the acting secretary is saying that we will be having interviews during this month of May, that's a guarantee because all the other steps have been completed. Yes, I will then pause there unless if there is further request for me to clarify on any other position. Honorable Chair, honorable members, thank you.
Chair, shall we go on with the other questions?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Let's do that.
Okay, I think I'm going to ask Ravi to speak on the surveys, if there's anything to add, and then I'm going to ask colleagues to talk on the public participation.
Yes, thank you, Acting Secretary, for the opportunity. I noted the concerns of Honourable Julius. So like the Acting Secretary said, when we started the 6th Parliament strategy, we recognized by extensive engagement with members that members did want to rate the services of the parliamentary administration. So our new strategic plan definitely has it. We've already presented to the committee before. Remember, in May of last year, we would have tabled the APP, which is becoming active in the first quarter of this year. And where we showed that our new measures are moving to member satisfaction. Then just a little bit more detail. In fact, in the next 2 weeks, members will see a survey going out where we're asking certain questions around satisfaction with our services. Some of the dimensions we focus on, like, for instance, I'll just use an example. If we ask you, how satisfied are you with the research service that you get? We will be asking you to rate the dimensions of how useful was the research, how simple and easy was it to use, how reliable was it, how responsive was it, how credible was it. Those surveys we're going to be sending across. We're working on certain tools at the moment. There's a Survey Monkey tool, there's a Google Forms tool, which are even free apps on phones. It'll also be web-based. So we're in the process of completing it because we've got a report on that in the first quarter. So unfortunately, when we have an APP tabled in May, it only becomes active at the end of March, or call it for the next year. So that lag effect, you're seeing the lag effect in our reporting, even though the APPs and strat plans are already changed, but you will only see this coming through in the first quarter. Like I said, in the next 2 weeks, members will actually be seeing the survey, because we did recognize that the client ratings or member satisfaction is important. We also noted certain other parliaments like Zimbabwe and New Zealand who've already gone down this route. So it's definitely there as part of our plans, and that will be happening. Then on the issue as well, in terms of talking about whether those targets are high and low, you will see the APP targets for the forward-looking APP, which will be reported on in March, does have certain targets. There are benchmarks that we have chosen. So, for example, there is no client satisfaction anywhere in the world which was ever at 100%. Just to give some examples from the South African environment, the highest client satisfaction rating for any institution in the whole of South Africa is actually Capitec at 84. And like, for example, the city of Cape Town has a satisfaction rating of 64%. That's how clients view the city of Cape Town. So if you look at it, the average for any corporate or any institution in the whole of South Africa is around 75% as an average and satisfaction, because there's a great deal of individual preferences which come through. So it's recognized that nowhere in the world does any institution have 100% client satisfaction. So we will also share more of that in the strategic planning session that the Joint Standing Committee is going to have, where these things come from, and how certain targets were actually chosen, what it was based on, and the kind of benchmarks which exist out there. But I've given a little bit of an indicator of that already. I think from my side, Acting Secretary, I think I've covered some of the points which were raised. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thank you very much. Chair, I see Honorable Kaiso's hand is up. I thought it's only respectful that maybe the chairperson addresses his hand, or he addresses him before we proceed. It's your meeting, Co-Chair.
Kaiso, is there an issue that you'd want to raise?
Yes, I was not sure whether I should wait up until all the responses, but I wanted to ask a question.
It's fine. You're in the platform already. Just raise your issue. It's fine.
Yes, but I didn't want to retard the meeting. That's why I wasn't interested to talk now. But then, if you allow me, I can speak, Honorable Co-Chair.
It's related to the presentation.
Yes, not
No, it's fine. Raise
yes.
it, because once they've responded, we're not going to allow for further questions.
No, it was the earlier response on the first set of questions that the co-chair was already alluded to as well, because whilst Mr. Mukonyane was explaining the issue of that recruitment, you know, I wasn't really convinced that the issue of not getting a person during the headhunting process, one of the reasons was the people were not interested to move because of family, reasons. Now it came to my mind, I think a person, if you apply with a full knowledge that you are going to travel kilometers and kilometers away from your family when you make that agreement with yourselves. So I want to believe that all those people who were, spotted on or identified knew about that, and they thought there will be a better arrangement, that it will be looked into, such that now it's not easy for me to can say, I've got a challenge with regard to my family, a movement, etc. So what comes to me or to my mind is that perhaps I think it will be prudent for the Parliament us to look in future that there should be conditions, for instance, which are, are created such that when such instances arises, you are able to, with that package, at least harness that situation that a person would find herself or himself that I'll have to unfortunately take a decision which is going to disadvantage me as a person who was being recruited, to say easily, no, I decline. But in the presence of, unexplained or situation where the person is getting to, it seems very bleak, it's very easy not to get any candidate for such matter. So it's one of the sensitive area that I want to appeal that it should be looked into in future. Co-Chair, thank you very much. That's what I wanted to raise before I forget. Thank you very much, Co-Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Chair. Chairperson, I rather maybe, and I see my HR is raising his hand, but maybe to pursue the discussion with the committee, we Yeah, we note that, but we can, I don't know what Mr. Mkonya wants to say, but it's not my meeting, Chair. Shall we move to the other attempt of answering the questions? The last questions that are left on public participation.
Thank you, Chair, if I may.
Yes, I see the chair. Did we lose the chair, Cindy? Cindy?
Yes, Metawa.
We lost the chair.
Yes, but I've admitted her again. She's joining.
Masibu is on the platform to respond to public participation. We'll wait for the chair, indicate once she's on the platform.
She's on right now.
Oh, good.
Oh, she's still connecting. It's just a second. Okay.
So, sorry, my apologies.
Chair, we were saying.
I was kicked out. Yes, ma'am.
No, we were saying we're proceeding with the responding to the question on public participation. We note Honorable Kaiso's points around the support and all of those, and we can share information with you on these matters later on recruitment, the support we provide, and so on and so forth. I think that's very useful that we share with the committee. But I would like us to move to the question raised by members on public participation. I think also Honorable Kaiso raised that question on what are we doing to make sure that we adapt to the challenges, because COVID is going to be with us forever. So I'll hand over to Mr. Kaiso on that one.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, ASTP, and good afternoon, honorable members. Just to indicate that we will be able to give further details on this, but I would like to state at this point in time that indeed public participation is happening in committees. Members will be aware that both on the expropriation and the Section 25 committee,
all right,
there have been interaction with members of the public in terms of submission. So it's happening both virtually and physically, and of course physically adhering to the limitations that are imposed by the COVID restrictions in terms of numbers of people that could be accommodated in particular venues. And in terms of submissions, we do use WhatsApp, we do use emails for members of the public, civil society to make submissions to committees. But Chair, we would be in a position to give a written response to this, just to expatiate on what I've indicated, and Advocate Pindela can come in if there are issues that he wants to add to that. And the other points have been responded to around performance. The only issue I wanted to say is that for lack of a better word, the claims we make in our reports, performance reports, are actually audited. They go through audit to verify their correctness or otherwise. So I thought I should just make that point. Thank you so much, Chair, and to the honorable members.
Thank you, Advocate, and a comment, and then Muloto must also speak on the radio station and the studio. Thanks. Pindela, through you, Chair.
Chairperson, I have nothing to add to what has already been said. Thank you.
Chair, allow me then to ask Mr. Muloto to address the other platforms that we're using for extending public participation. Mr. Muloto, Mutapa?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Chairperson. With the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, we have enhanced our communication channels, honorable members, including ensuring that the public has increased access to the business of Parliament than ever before. We have ensured that the great majority of meetings of committees, including public hearings, the sittings of the Houses of Parliament, as well as other programs of the institution are broadcast live and streamed live on channels such as YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We have included an additional platform called Ion FM, where we stream the audio of these programs of Parliament, and where radio stations and the public can access live streams and recordings of the sittings. Members would have also realized that we have increased the channels of YouTube, meaning that we are able to stream more meetings of Parliament simultaneously than we were able to do so before. The public awareness service outcome tell us consistently that cell phone is one of the most accessible sources of information that the public use after television and radio. And thus, it is very important because these kind of platforms that I've mentioned are available right on the palms of the hands of many South Africans to access the business of Parliament. Members will also have realized that there are quite significant improvements in relation to our parliamentary broadcasting services through the Parliamentary TV channel, where significant meetings of Parliament are also broadcast live. Where we are unable to do so, we have delayed broadcasts being scheduled to ensure public has full access to the business of Parliament. We have had discussions with MultiChoice, and now the Parliamentary TV channel is available across all the bouquets, meaning that even the most cheapest bouquets that South Africans living, for instance, in rural areas or informal settlements with subscriptions are able to access this. So we are in discussion with MultiChoice as well, because we have been in this broadcasting partnership with them for many years, I believe since 1997. We're in discussion with them to extend the broadcast of Parliament, even on the regional TV channels that they work with. The service that we have referred to, that the acting SDP and Mr. Mutli has referred to in the report, they have for the past 4 or 5 years told us consistently that the public both prefer and are actually using television as a source of information on Parliament. I believe between 85 and 90% of South Africans use television as a source of information on Parliament. And for this reason, we are improving our broadcasting. We have just completed the state-of-the-art television studio. And from time to time, you will have seen that we are conducting live broadcast and educational interviews with members of Parliament and other stakeholders internally and externally. And we have got also, a schedule of very insightful, educational, informative documentaries and movies. I know that Honorable Julius what he says about working with the SABC, but our experience is that SABC does operate and compete in the commercial market, meaning that they will not be carrying content on Parliament for free. And we have tried that before, and we have been told as much, in the discussion that we've had previously along the same lines. And as we move forward in terms of improving parliamentary broadcasting services, we are looking at ensuring that we move towards establishing a more professional broadcasting service, which will operate under its own legislative framework, that it is licensed and is able to take advantage of the opportunities that will be presented by the digital migration. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Chairperson, we have covered a lot of these points and questions.
Hello.
We have covered most of the questions. Chair?
Ma'am Chawa.
Yes, ma'am.
No, I didn't want to interrupt when Matapo was presenting, but
I can't hear you, Chair. We can't hear.
Presentation, his video was off. That Matapo must switch on his face. People are missing him on TV. No, I'm saying people should show his face on. Can you hear me?
We only hear you now. We didn't hear when you were starting, Chair. We only hear that you say, Mr. Moloto must switch on a video, but we didn't hear everything else that you said before that.
No, I was saying that I've received requests that they would want to see his face, so I didn't want to interrupt him while he was still responding. So I want him to switch on his video and show his face.
Oh, Mr. Mutapo, your face. Members would
Mr.
like
Mutapo.
to see who you are, how you look. Honorable members would like to see your face, Mr. Mutapo.
Not honorable members. I've received this from members of the public. Ne?
Oh, but yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Mutapo, are you a human being or are you a robot? Mutapo.
Chairperson, I'm saying there is my handsome face. I hope that is sufficient.
Are you a human being or are you a... All right, thank you.
A part robot and part human being.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mutapo. Mejawa?
Ma'am, we've covered everything. We think instead of wasting time on the issues raised by Honorable Kaiso, I'm so sorry. Honorable Kaiso, really sorry. I do dislike it also when people just don't say my surname properly. I must never do this to you. Honestly, apologize profusely. We will provide a written submission on the whole recruitment, how we support, how we encourage migration into a national parliament, because we are a national parliament. Our recruitment must be supportive of people who want to work in parliament. We will submit to that, Chairperson, if you allow us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mechawa and your team. Members, are there any further questions that you would want to raise? None. I think we'll take this this debate further once the strategy is presented before the committee. We have made an application for the strategy to be presented before us. We could have had this meeting last week, but unfortunately the presiding officers were not present, so we're waiting on their availability. We feel that the strategy of Parliament is their commitment to us as members of the committee and also to the people of South Africa. So that solemnly is their responsibility and depends on it relies on them. We don't want them to delegate that authority. With others, we don't mind, but on the strategy, we would want them to be present in this meeting. Members, if there are no further clarity seeking questions, I would propose that we officially close the meeting and agree that maybe in the next week we will take from where we left with public works. I would want to declare the meeting officially closed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Your iPhone was not that good.
Yes.
Why?
Your iPhone was not that good.
Thank you so much. Thanks very with your support. Thanks, Chair.